fancy camera they stuck on under the light.
Yeah, I see. Was that, maybe that's part of the new system you're doing?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So we actually went over to.
Oh, in there too.
That's, my understanding is it's gonna be a two-way system, right? So that you could watch these at home and even if they were, I think.
Hmm.
Who's posting it on Facebook?
Huh?
Who's posting it on Facebook? Yeah. Or live stream?
Yeah, I am.
We're like.
And what's her name if she comes over there? Comes over there.
Andrew, would
Yeah,
you-
Andrew.
So we just walked around up and down the streets.
He's here every,
When we did our day.
and Andrea Wichita's usually also, she sits over there.
Yeah, I know that she likes it.
She's our neighbor.
Is she?
Next street over.
This is such a
And so unnecessary. Yeah, yeah. For what reason? Yeah, we had the access to it for one of these. You know, so we don't mind it good.
There's a lot of money flowing out of this township. Where do you folks live?
Just off Black River.
Um,
5 minutes away.
On Hill from Wasserwas.
So that's like not convenient at all for you to go to Southern Lehigh.
Oh my God, it's the farthest place to go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's pretty close for us, but.
I could actually, if there were sidewalks, I would actually walk to
To
Hotel.
Hotel.
I mean, I walk that mile distance all the time.
Sure.
It's 3 miles, but Wassergas Road has no sidewalks, I'm sure, so I end up being a road kid.
Kids can't go there after school. Well, it's just so unnecessary. I don't understand how these all got started, you know, what their beef is with lodges, and there's some kind of feud that nobody seems to understand.
Well, what I believe,
Hmm.
it's like I said, 100% fact, because I wasn't involved at the time. But I understand that now the town proposed a fee schedule that was incredibly stiff.
Incredibly stiff, it's not that.
I thought it was $9
Stop.
per person.
Which,
I don't know, that's
Tell me
why I
where you
said.
could buy a book for $9.
Well, you can, anywhere.
what was, they had a 5-year agreement previously, and I read that they proposed.
Books don't go on trees, you have to have some. My name is Mary, this is Bruce.
There, Bruce, my name is Anne Marie. That man, he's smiling, doing that smile. He sits
So
up
what's
there.
the deal with Facebook posting that his family lives?
Upper side.
I don't know that.
I didn't know how he could be on council if he lives there.
Are you required to live in the township to be on council? I'm not sure you are.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I would think you are.
I would think about it too.
Well, didn't he replace the woman who was elected in
Yeah.
21?
Zabaki.
Zabaki.
She lives next to him.
Oh, does she?
It's a difficult neighborhood.
Um, I don't know.
Oh, my God, somebody.
Many years ago, I was on Lower Saucon Water.
Oh, you are?
I don't know why. Couldn't just do the logical thing. There were a couple of cases where, you know, and our neighbor used to run the Little League, and they used to do a lot of to try to do a
No, it's really.
It took them, did something, it took them like 3 meetings or something to get them.
Yeah, but I'm not getting.
So,
Fun times. I could be sitting at home playing with my lathe in the garage. Maybe this is the reason God kept me alive through all those stupid things I've done throughout my life.
I wonder if anybody on Riverside Drive or Reddington Road, I wonder if they felt the effects of that big fire that was down on the river. Did you see that?
No, when I seen it this morning, I didn't look out my back door. I live on Reddington Road.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I should have been able to see all the smoke, but I ate breakfast and stuff. I went out and worked on it, so. And I just never looked down there.
The smoke plumes were so high in the newsreel outside.
They said you could see it miles away.
Yeah. And then, of course, they're monitoring now both air quality and water quality because of whatever was in that warehouse. There was some, I think some part of it was a medical waste
Used to be
facility.
a welding shop a long time ago.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Mark. How you doing?
Am I doing?
The first one here.
What?
The first one here.
Maybe the what?
First one here.
Oh.
Was
No.
some of the equipment?
I think,
What's that?
I think Mr. Ingles.
Oh, they're having their little party.
Well, there's something. Don't you go back there for some?
Oh. I
Only
do
when
when we
she's
have executive
invited.
session.
Oh.
You gotta go
I
back.
don't wanna be, I don't wanna say, it, looking like there's something going on. I try to be careful.
Well, just think if you went back there, maybe you'd interrupt the conversation.
Yeah, probably
Because-
would.
And they wouldn't get the ad in before they came out. You're
Yeah, they-
neglecting your duties.
Hanging in there. Oh, I thought you meant local.
All alone tonight?
Yeah. So I just.
Yeah, there's some kind of meeting we go to.
They even cut back like on fixing my freelance stuff as of last year, you know, it's like, used to be all the time. We gotta get over here for this. Not a word. It's coming. It's coming. Just hold on to your panties.
Victoria?
Saucon Township special meeting. Mark, please call the roll.
Mr. Benonis?
Here.
Mr. Caroci? Here. Ms. DeLeon?
Here.
Ms. Ingles?
Here.
Ms. Schur?
Here.
All right, please stand and put your flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States to the republic Council did not meet in executive session before today's meeting. We may meet after this meeting in executive session. First, I'd like to thank Mark and Township staff who have improvement to our audio system. We're using the same microphones, but they've been fine-tuned. So hopefully those in the audience don't have any issues hearing us, and hopefully we have no problems hearing you. So I'd like to remind everyone of our public comment procedure. I brought this up during our last council meeting for those who may not have been here. I'll share the details of that with you again. Resolution 75-2022. Whereas Lower Saucon Township is a township of the second class optional plan of government located in Oneida County, Pennsylvania, and is governed by an elected council, and whereas the council of Lower Saucon Township is authorized to promulgate rules and regulations for legislative public hearings to be conducted by council, and whereas the Lower Saucon Township Council is authorized to establish a level of stability and promote an atmosphere of reasoned expression of ideas, promulgating rules and regulations for public hearings, and whereas the council recognizes that public participation in the public hearing process intended. So I'll skip over the remainder. I'll just do resolution 31-2023, which pertains to the conduct of council meetings. So this was passed in 2023. Again, whereas Lower Saucon Township is a township with a second-class optional plan of government located in Northampton County, Pennsylvania. It is governed by an elected council, and whereas the Pennsylvania Home Rule Charter and optional plans law, the second-class township code, and the Lower Saucon Township Administrative Code authorize the council of Lower Saucon Township to promulgate rules and regulations for its council meetings, whereas the Lower Saucon Township Council is authorized to establish a level of stability and promote an atmosphere of reasoned expression of ideas and promulgating rules and regulations for its council meetings. Whereas the council recognizes public comment is intended to afford citizens an opportunity to bring important matters to the attention of Lower Saucon Township Council. Whereas the council is a strong advocate of free speech and wishes to promote an atmosphere of reasoned expression of ideas. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of Lower Saucon Township establishes the following rules and regulations regarding the agenda for public meetings and public comment and conduct during such public meetings. Again, all regular and special meetings, Lower Saucon Township Council shall be conducted according to the following order of business. Call to order, roll call, pledge of allegiance, announcement of executive session, applicable, public comment period, public comment agenda items, residents and taxpayers only, presentations, hearings, developer items, township business items, miscellaneous business items, council and staff reports, public comment, non-agenda items, residents and taxpayers only, and adjourned. Township manager, in accordance with the code of Lower Saucon Township, shall prepare a printed agenda for each meeting of the council and provide the same for public review at least 3 days prior to the commencement of each such meeting. The agenda and any non-confidential accompanying material shall be posted on the township website. The agenda without material shall be posted at the township building. A copy shall be available at the meeting. Any council person who wishes to have an item listed on the agenda shall present a written request to the township manager with sufficient detail to describe the item at least 7 calendar days prior to the date of the meeting. The written request shall be accompanied by the assent of one other council person to the request. This process shall not apply to emergency or special meeting of the township council. Public comment participation. Public participation, including public comment relating to agenda items, shall occur at the beginning of the meeting and shall be listed on the agenda as public comments, agenda items, residents, taxpayers only. Public participation, including public comment, will not be allowed after the commencement of council's business meeting or during any other agenda item. Public participation, including public comment, shall be within the discretion and under the direction and control of the council president or acting council president. Public comment shall be made only by the Lower Saucon Township residents and taxpayers. Persons wishing to make comments to the council must put their names on the sign-in sheet to be used by the council president to allocate the available time among those wishing to speak. Residents and/or taxpayers of the Lower Saucon Township shall announce their name prior to addressing township council. Public comment may be made only by a resident or taxpayer who has been recognized by the council president. Comments about items on the agenda will be limited to no more than 3 minutes per person. Council president or acting council president shall, in his or her sole discretion, be permitted to expand the individual comment period by no more than 2 minutes upon request from the individual. Thereafter, additional time may be allowed only upon motion approved by the majority of council. Organized groups of people attending the meeting to present a common position or idea to council shall designate no more than 2 of the members to speak for the group. No speaker will be allowed to surrender his or her time to any other person or to call upon other persons for comment. No resident or taxpayer shall obstruct in any way the entrances or exits to the township council meeting room. The resident or taxpayer shall address township council from the lectern situated in the center of the township council meeting room unless the resident or taxpayer is physically unable to do so. All public comment will be addressed to the township council. Nothing in hearing shall require any council member to answer questions or engage in debate. Members of the audience may not address other members of the audience or argue, speak, or yell back and forth at or to each other. To facilitate the business of the township and to maintain order, there shall be no foul or vulgar language used or gestures made during the meeting. Comments should be substantive and not include any defamatory content and or personal attacks on the integrity of others, whether or not present. Letters shall not be read during public comment unless such letter can be read within the allotted 3-minute time limit for individual public comment. No extension shall be granted for residents or taxpayers reading a letter during public comment. Any letters cited or read may be submitted to the township manager. Copies of any documents being reviewed or discussed during public comment shall be made available to council. At all times, each attendee at a council meeting shall respect the point of view of others. No comment disagreeing with another another's point of view shall involve a personal attack on the character of others with a different viewpoint. Any conduct disruptive of the township council meeting and interfering with the business of the township, such as talking when not recognized by the council president or acting council president, talking beyond the allotted time limit, and or the use of a cell phone shall not be tolerated. The Council President or acting Council President will rule out of order any speaker or comment which is defamatory, contentious, scandalous, impertinent, redundant, or disruptive to the proceedings of the meeting. If the conduct or in order of the Township Council meeting is no longer maintained, the Council President or acting Council President may recess the meeting to restore order so the business of the Township may be conducted when the meeting resumes. Public comment shall not contain personal attacks of any nature directed toward or against any council person, employees of Lower Saucon Township, members of the audience, or any other persons. A period of public comment shall be placed at the end of each agenda for comments relating to non-agenda items. Rules and regulations contained herein shall apply to this public comment period as well. Purpose of public comment shall be for residents or taxpayers to comment on matters of concern, official action, or deliberation, which are or may be before the council prior to official action being taken. Council will not respond to comment made during the public portion of the meeting unless it is necessary to ask a clarifying question, correct a factual error, or provide specific information. The purpose of public comment is not for residents or taxpayers to engage in argument or debate with members of council, the administration, or other residents, and the council president shall maintain order in accordance with such purpose. This resolution repeals Resolution 31, 2022, resolved and adopted this third day of January 2023. So copies of this resolution are available on the tables outside of the council meeting room. If anyone has any questions, I ask you pick up a copy of it. So considering that tonight's meeting is a special meeting with a single item on the agenda, I would like to make a motion. I will make a motion to dispense with the public comment period at the beginning of the meeting to give residents and taxpayers the opportunity to comment after council has their comments before we vote, so that you can hear the discussions of council and address, if you have any comments, the issues that are discussed by council during our deliberations. At the conclusion of the public comment period, council will then deliberate again, and then we will entertain any motions. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, that's an excellent idea.
Okay, so Priscilla seconds that?
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Leon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so our only item on the agenda tonight under township business items is discussion of the Southern Lehigh Public Library correspondence of February 24, 2023. Possible action on the Southern Lehigh Public Library offer to provide quote limited end quote library services, and possible action on sending a proposal to Southern Lehigh Public Library for quote full end quote library services. So with that, what I'm going to do is, Link, I believe that the correspondence that is referred to in this item is correspondence directed to you as the township solicitor. So perhaps you could update council on that letter and your interpretation of it.
Sure. So, as Mr. Benonis said, I received some correspondence from the attorney for the Southern Lehigh Library. It's dated February 24th. And that correspondence contains a proposal that they requested be presented to this council. The next Southern Lehigh Public Library Board meeting, I believe, is the 18th of this month, and our meeting's not scheduled to the 9th. So if you would like to get a response to the Southern Lehigh Public Library prior to their next meeting, which is the 18th, then it would need to be done tonight before next meeting being after that. So this, all council got this letter from the Southern Lehigh Library. It was in the agenda. It was posted on the website. Just briefly, the terms of it were that it was a month-to-month agreement proposal, terminable at any time by either party. The cost of the agreement was $3,750 per month, with the condition that it not exceed 15% of Southern Lehigh's yearly income, the library's yearly income. The services section provided limited services, most specifically not Pennsylvania Library Access PA privileges. So that was one of the issues in the letter. There was no board membership proposed for any of our Saucon residents. And that's pretty much it. There was then a paragraph at the end that advised us to abide by all Pennsylvania laws when having a public meeting. So after I got that letter, I responded. I had some questions. There in my letter, everybody's seen it, everybody's read it. At the Southern Lehigh Library's last board meeting, which I believe was March 21st, I think there was some comment that they had recently gotten my letter and would respond to it, but, so again, the purpose of this evening is if you would like to respond to this proposal in the February 24th letter, or offer a different proposal, to get it to them in a timely fashion, we would like to do it now.
Let me ask you a question about the terms of that offer letter that we got from Southern Lehigh Public Library, the not to exceed 15% of the yearly income. What's the significance of that?
The significance of that is that in the library code, there's some language that talks about, in the library regulations, there's some language that talks about if you contribute more than 15% of the municipal income that the library receives annually, then you are entitled to board membership. So I believe the purpose of this section was to keep it under 15% because later in the agreement it says no board membership.
And with regard to the letter that you wrote back in response to this letter, have you received any response?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Lynn?
No, that's why.
Let's turn the floor over to Mark. You want to start?
I think it was pretty clear what they said. I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of looking for a more permanent solution to this. That's my opinion. I like a long-term arrangement, and I think we should perhaps put together something that might work long-term instead of short-term. Because I think this is going on too long. I think our residents need some library service. I think we need some stability, and I'd like to pursue something more permanent.
Sandy?
I agree with Mark wholeheartedly. The full month proposal is not what I think our residents need or want, so, I agree with him. We need to come up with something permanent, or at least as permanent as we can make it for our residents.
Like, as I understand it, the Office of Commonwealth Libraries, when a request is submitted to the Office of Commonwealth Libraries, the statute and or their regulations or guidelines say something to the effect that they want the municipality, which is joining or becoming a partner with the public library, to do so for a 10-year period. And that's for, continuity, so they don't have municipalities jumping in and out of libraries on an annual basis, which creates a lot of administrative issues for the Office of Commonwealth Libraries. Is that correct?
That's in the addition to the direct service area section of the regulations, correct? And it should be for a minimum of 10 years, unless there are one or two exceptions to that, one of which the Hellertown Area Library used last year when they asked for special approval to remove Lower Saucon from its service area.
Okay. Back in June of, I think it was June of 22, you may recall this better than I do. We had made, Hellertown Area Library had made an offer or demand, and we responded to it. I don't remember if the timing of that is correct. Can you refresh my memory of what those terms were?
No, I think I think you're referring to the letter that's in the packet, which is the 520 letter. Can you pop that open, Stacy, please? Yeah, that was an offer of settlement letter. We had received correspondence from Hellertown and Howe, and that letter came from your May 18th council meeting. So those three issues were discussed at the council meeting, and you directed me to send correspondence to Howe's attorney, which I did, and that was I guess we could call it a settlement offer. That was an offer to, that Howe would keep the state aid for 2022, and that Lower Saucon would remain in the direct service area for all of 2022, that Hal and the township would cooperate to remove the township from the library service area at the end of 2022, and that the township would, in addition to the $50,000 donation, donate another $32,000 to Hal for 2022. So that's what I would term as the settlement offer. That there was $82,000 on the table. We would have mutually gone to OCL and said, we don't want to be partners in the library business anymore. And there would have been no litigation. Hellertown said no to that. The Hellertown Library said no to that offer. And if you recall, and it's in the letter, that the offer was contingent on all three issues going together.
Okay, I'll wait until the end. Priscilla, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to say, whoops. I just want to say that, there have been no comparable studies done, as if, like we did back in, the early, like 2010, 2011, looking into, library services when we were considering leaving, the Bethlehem Library. And I happened to pull, there's two reports on our website under library services, and there's a study called Overview of the Saucon Valley Library Task Force. In one of the paragraphs on page 3, in 2009, primarily due to the increased costs for library services at the Bethlehem Area Public Library, the Township Council asked the Library Committee to explore other alternatives for library services for Township residents. The Library Committee reached out to the Southern Lehigh Library in Center Valley and the Hellertown Area Library to initiate discussions with these facilities concerning library services. The Southern Lehigh Library advised the Library Committee that due to state library regulations, they would be prohibited from joining with the Township for library services. So how does that affect this with what you're doing now?
What are you asking?
Well, I guess whoever wants to answer my question, if the council that can't answer, then I guess leave.
So the question is, in 2009,
No, this was 2012. This was the report given to the township.
okay, and it says that the Southern Lehigh Library said that the library code prohibited Lower Saucon from going to Southern Lehigh?
It says the Southern Lehigh Library advised the Library Committee that due to state library regulations, they would be prohibited from joining with the Township for library services.
And you're asking me why they said that?
No, I'm not asking you why, I'm saying, is that true, that they are prohibited by
No.
state?
I don't think it is.
So in your opinion, it's not?
Well, I could probably read you the section of the library code. This is section 9353, or sorry, 9371 of the Pennsylvania Library Code, free use of libraries. There's a section A that talks about residents and taxpayers. And then there's a section B that states, the Board of Library Directors may extend library privileges to persons not residing in the municipality upon the terms and conditions that the board prescribes. Period.
Is there a date on that regulation?
It's the current library
It's the
code.
current code. Okay, so, but there's been no studies done that you're aware of on, like, how many people, like, use the library, or, you know, like, why we're going towards Southern Lehigh and not going with Hellertown?
Hellertown wouldn't give us the usage numbers.
I don't know of any studies other than Mark, the township manager, has the people that signed up for Hellertown Library Cards that were reimbursed for
Okay,
Hellertown.
well, I'd like to hear from everybody, before I comment further.
Tom?
Well, if a long-term, agreement can be, proposed with Southern Lehigh Library, I'd be for that. If not, I'm fine with, reimbursing residents for library cards, wherever they want to go, like we're doing.
All right, anything else?
No.
Good. Well, again, we're gonna deliberate more after we hear from the public, so, what I will do.
Well, let's before we get into the public comment, I think there are two things that we need to talk about and decide. A, does anybody like the proposal that we got from the Southern Lehigh Library? No.
No.
I do, but probably for different reasons.
Okay. So then the second question would be, if I'm going to respond at some point and say, we don't like the limited library service proposal, do we have?
Yeah, I mean, here's my thought on it, and I'll put it out there, and the public can, other members of council can talk to it before it's available to the public. My thoughts on this are to have the solicitor issue a letter to Southern Lehigh Public Library and its funding partners with an offer for, not for Library Light, but for full library services for Lower Saucon Township residents. That would include the Pennsylvania Access Card for all Lower Saucon Township residents, which they can use at the Southern Lehigh Public Library or any other public library, Bethlehem Library, Hellertown Library, any others that accept the Access Pennsylvania card. It would be a 10-year deal. I think it needs to be a financially viable offer to support a 10-year agreement like we've done in past library arrangements. And I think an appropriate way to do this is to offer $250,000 upfront upon signing of the agreement for access to the library. That money would come from the American Relief Fund money, so it's not Lower Saucon Township taxpayer money that's being used for this. It's federal COVID money that's being used for a purpose like it's intended to be used for the betterment of the community. And for the 10 years thereafter, offering $75,000 per year for 10 years, which is a substantial savings over past years of library services. We would want to have board representation on the library board upon us being admitted in. By getting that offer out now, it gives them the opportunity to include Lower Saucon Township in its service area on its application to the Office of Commonwealth Library for state funding, which they submit in summertime. It gets approved in the fall. The 10-year deal would go into effect on January 1st, 2024. And I would want a show of good faith by them to provide us with immediate access to the Southern Lehigh Library, full access to the entire library with the Pennsylvania Access Card effective June 1st, so that our residents have the ability to go to any library they want this summer. And I would also want the agreement to have a term in it, or terms in it, that would be punitive if the agreement is breached by Lower Saucon Township, because the Office of Commonwealth Libraries wants us in this agreement for 10 years. And I think there has to be a penalty in it for Southern Lehigh Public Library taking us in, and its funding partners taking us in, because they were counting on our financial commitment to support this library for 10 years. So I would suggest that there be a penalty of 5 years of annual payments that would be due at any time the agreement would be breached, if it's ever breached, and I don't think it should be or would be. And by doing that, the public has complete access to all libraries through the Access Pennsylvania card. They can go to the Hellertown Library if they want. So there's no difference in the services that are being provided to the township.
That's if it was violated by any party, because they have partners, but also the library. Like Hellertown breached the 10-year state requirement by filing to get us off.
That's right.
Okay, so it's an offer to the partners as well.
Correct, yeah, I mean, because the partners are, what we're looking here for is for a partner. And we clearly didn't have a partner with Hellertown, and it's unfortunate. They went out and they entered into their own agreement. I think it was a 2-year agreement. They removed all Lower Saucon residents from having any board representation on the library. And that's after Lower Saucon Township gave them close to $1 million over a 9 or 10-year period.
It's just fiscally wise to have a partner like Upper Saucon that's financially
Well, it's true, Tom. I mean, they certainly have the funding and the means to provide for the library, and I think that,
And we do too.
yeah, and the library is, you know, when you compare the two, it's a more substantial, robust library with a vision for the future. And I think by having an equal funding partner that wants to maintain that library and improve library services, it's for the best. I mean, providing Lower Saucon residents with better library services, sustainable, better library service for less money for 10 years.
The quality of the program is much better over there. The library facilities are 100% better over there. And we're improving and serve library services for the township residents for about the same or less cost. So,
It's actually less. Yes.
Less on a yearly basis, right?
Right. And we get board representation with that.
Right, we get board representation
Can I ask a question?
for a funding commitment.
So that board representation would be based on financial contribution, so prorated based on financial contribution.
That's right.
Just so I know what I'm.
As it should be.
Right. So those are my thoughts. I mean, there's no motion that's been made, but those are my thoughts for a potential offer. I don't know if anybody else on council has any thoughts or comments on that? No? Okay. All right, so, what I'll do then is I will now, open up for public comment. We have the sign-in sheets. We've got a number of people that have signed in. I will go through these in order. I'll call your name, and, if you would come forward, just identify yourself, please, for the record, and, we'll get started. So the first person up is Anne Marie Crown. Anne Marie Crown.
We'll test that this works. Oh, it's great today.
Congratulations.
Wonderful. Yes, I am indeed Anne Marie Crown. This is a sad night for someone like me. I speak of the Hellertown Area Library as Hal. Hal is a friend, really. Hal has served me very well over all the years I've lived in this township. And I have always, from my childhood, experienced and believed that a library has a personality also. It is in some ways like a home away from home. I have always felt that Hellertown is like that. They have a very courteous, helpful staff, and they obviously love their library, and they share it so willingly with the entire Saucon Valley community. I have experienced with them times when they have gone so above and beyond to help me. I have a deep interest in military history, and I read books that can't be found hardly anywhere. But all I have to do is ask somebody at Hellertown to find it, and it comes from somewhere in the United States for me to use. So I was one of those people who bought the card at Hellertown. I received the check of reimbursement, and I promptly donated it to Hal. And I will say publicly that I will never leave Hal unless I have no other choice. To me, they are the very definition of a small hometown library, and the personality and the feeling of being home that goes with that. And I want to publicly thank them. My impression thus far about Southern Lehigh, and I have read all the documents that are available, is that even a $50,000 incentive for them to start the process with us still left them with a feeling of reluctance. So when I think about us being part of that group, how welcomed will we be? I really don't know. I'm always open to discussion, but I'm always looking for solid financial information, why we make a decision. And I always look that Saucon Valley gets served, especially the school district and the children of Saucon Valley. It seems that it's going to go the way of Southern Lehigh. That's unfortunate in my view. And I will simply say, I always look at the chart, the organizational chart for this township, and the top box is voters, and the box under that is council. They are linked. So I hope whatever decision we make, we know that we are always linked for the future of the residents of this township. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, then I have the privilege then
So,
the next time.
you know, didn't, in your,
Oh, your microphone's on.
in your motion, you did say the part of our offer is the state library access. So Mr. Crown would be able to use the Helltown Library.
Correct. It wouldn't change, and
I just wanted to
actually,
clarify that was part of your, I guess you didn't make a motion, but your, idea.
yeah.
All right.
Right. Priscilla, you want to say something?
Not at this time, but I will probably before the meeting's over, since he set precedent, I will.
Okay. All right, the next person is Diane Hollowell. Diane Hollowell?
I did have to adjust this because you guys had your little meeting beforehand, so. I guess my first question is how did this
Hold on. What
Diane
meeting
Hollowell
before-
Highland Drive?
I know, but what meeting beforehand are you talking about?
Well, I didn't know you guys were gonna talk first, so I had to adjust some of the stuff I'm saying.
Okay, I'm sorry, good.
So I guess my first question is how did this even get started? And have any of you ever visited the Hellertown Library?
No.
Have you seen any of the programs that are offered there to Hellertown and Lower Saucon residents? And, sorry, Mr. Treadwell, I'm quoting you a lot. You stated in a letter to Mr. Attorney Sevia in November, the township is going to fight for continued library services for their residents. And again, how did it get there? We had a library, and I don't understand how it gives us access PA. And I'm just curious, what is the vision of Southern Lehigh Public Library? You said they have a vision. Can you enlighten us with it? No.
Unless they have better programs.
No, you said they have a vision for the future. I was just curious what that was.
I said they
He did say that. Well, never mind that. He said that. And a month-to-month agreement that could be terminated at any time without reason. So if I check a book out there at the end of the month, would I get a late fee, and would the council cover that? Or limited access, no museum passes, you're not at the privilege, of course, to access PA. And let me see, what do I have here? I just can't understand how it got that far. Oh, I do have to quote Mr. Treadwell, and that a small group of Lower Saucon Township residents. You think standing room only at board meetings, letters to the editor, and social media posts is a small group of Lower Saucon residents?
No, I don't. I think the 21 emails and the 7 that went to the library is a small group, and that's what the letter said.
So
If we're going to be factual, let's please be factual.
Let's be factual, there's approximately 55 people in this room in my county, and there are close to 12,000 residents in the township. There's 55 people in this room.
If the cameras are going, maybe more, can you get whenever those are up and running, can you get find out how many people are viewing online? That would be awesome. And just another note, this is just concerning Resolution 31, 2023. Under public comments and participation, number 13, no resident or taxpayer shall obstruct in any way the entrance to the township council meeting. No offense, but I think as long as this board is sitting up there making these decisions that are affecting township residents, you might want to hold them bigger accommodations. Because I've been to a few of these where everybody's standing in the doorway in the hallway and you can't hear anything that's going on. Do what's right, and do what's right.
I see empty seats.
I count at least 17 or 18 empty seats. And I need to correct the record there as was represented. There was a comment that this was going to be on a month-to-month basis. My proposal was not. My proposal again was for 10 years, which would be 120 months, not month-to-month. And with regard to late fees, enforcement of late fees is up to the library, however they decide to do that. They're a separate 501c3 and they operate how they see fit. Next person up is Jennifer, it looks like it's H-E-H-O-N. Oh, Helton, Jennifer Helton, I'm sorry.
I'm Jennifer Helton, 1520 Jake's Place. Good evening, members of the council, fellow community members. I'm here to express my strong opposition to the decision of Lower Saucon Township to work with SLPL for library service. As many of you are aware, this topic has been allowed on our agenda only twice in 16 months. And that is concerning to me as a member of the community. It is important that we have transparency in this decision-making process especially when it comes to matters that affect our community. Furthermore, I believe that this decision will be more expensive than if we had stayed with Howe. The cost differences between working with SLPL and Howe has not been fully addressed, and it is unclear how SLT, Lower Saucon Township, has arrived at their decision. It's important that we have a clear understanding of these financial implications on the decision, and that we have communicated this as a community, communicated to the community, sorry. I've been attending these meetings, and I am shocked by the lack of transparency in the process. Mr. Treadwell continues to misrepresent the will of the community, and he has expressed that their desire to failure to reestablish the relationship with Howe is very concerning. As a community, we deserve to have a say in this decision, and it affects us and our local institutions. In conclusion, I urge that the council reconsider their decision to not work with SLPL and instead reestablish the relationship with Howe. It is important that we have transparency in this decision-making process and that we work together as a community to ensure that the best outcome is for all of us. Thank you.
Factual errors there.
Yeah.
We already talked about this at the beginning of the meeting, was a correspondence that went back and forth in May, where we were attempting to work with Hal to reach an agreement with regard to our relationship, and they rejected it. The other part of that I need to address is the allegation that somehow going with Hal is financially better than what I had proposed. And to be clear, the last demand that we received from Hal was, I believe, $107,000 or $109,000 for a 5-year deal with no guarantee as to what the funding levels would be after year 1, which would likely would increase to higher levels. So what we're doing here is we're actually providing the same or better library services for substantially less money, where the amount that we are proposing is locked in and guaranteed without, and is not subject to the whims of a library board telling us what we should be paying and not giving us the data that we need to justify those numbers.
And I don't know how we can reestablish with Howe when they kicked us out. They can stop certain.
That's awesome.
And then, when do you want me to talk about transparency, now or at the end?
Well, we'll talk about it at the end.
Okay.
This is public comment.
Good, okay.
All right, so next we have Ellen Buck. Ellen Buck.
Ellen Buck. Good evening. Libraries have always been a certainty in my existence. Born and raised in Saucon Valley, I have enjoyed books and reading my whole life. Until this township board took over, I had access to 3 libraries. You don't realize it, but you upended my life and caused me anxiety, sadness, and anger. Here's what I want you to do to rectify this contentious issue. I want you to fully fund the Hellertown Area Library. Yes, I gladly bought a pass for Hal, and I'm pleased to visit and take out books. Last week, I checked out 5 books, and when I got home, I realized I had read 3 of them. I have read a lot of books in Hal, especially large print books. Here's the main point I want to make. If you do not fully fund Hal, I am not entitled to Pennsylvania access, through which Hal can request books from other Pennsylvania libraries. Before you cut funding, I could request large print books or other books freely, and the staff were happy to cooperate. If you partially fund Southern Lehigh Library, I cannot get Pennsylvania access either. The best solution in my mind is to fully fund the Hellertown Library.
May I interrupt you for a second? So, ma'am, right here in the center, right here. Perhaps you didn't hear what I said. And what I said was that our offer to Southern Lehigh Public Library would include the Access Pennsylvania card. So the sign that you have hanging around your neck or clipped to your shirt is what we're trying to get you. We're trying to get you the Access Pennsylvania card, which would give you access to not just the 3 libraries that you would go to, but any of the libraries that receive state funding that participate in the Access Pennsylvania program.
But I'm saying I would like you to fund Hal so I can get it from them.
Well, we're talking about getting it from Southern Lehigh, which that card would allow you to go to Howell or any other library. So, and what we're talking about is funding at a level that is less than what we had paid and what was demanded of us by Hellertown. Do you understand that?
I don't know what the funding, what the
Well, I just told you, I just said it was 107 or 109 year one, subject to going up after that, and then it's gonna be $75,000 pursuant to the terms that I just made.
But if you would have saved money by just paying $100,000 originally,
How?
because you had to pay attorney fees and everything.
But over the life of the deal. For the life of the deal, you're actually saving $250,000.
I'm sorry, but I
Okay,
don't believe.
I understand you just wanna go to the Hellertown Library, and I appreciate that. Thank you for your comments.
Hello, I'm Eric Dawson. Libraries are hugely important to me. My husband is really tired of hearing about how important it is for me to have the Pennsylvania Access Program. And I think the Hellertown Library is lovely, and the Southern Lehigh Library is lovely, Bethlehem is lovely. But I do not understand why this council is moving away from Hellertown, which is our community library, where the children can walk there after school. They cannot continue to exist if we are not supporting them with our funding. And why should people who live out in Steel City or Wassergas area have to go to Southern Lehigh to use a library?
They don't. They can
Well,
get the Access Pennsylvania card.
Excuse me, I'm not finished. Please stop interrupting.
the facts.
I realize if we get the access program, they can still use all these libraries, but Hellertown will not be funded as they were before. And that's very important to a community to have funding from their local schools and have children come there after school. It's just, this whole thing is such a debacle. I just cannot believe how it has happened. The library should be conveniently located. Southern Lehigh is in a different county. How does that make sense for us to go to a library in a different county and fund them? Also, you have proposed this $75,000 a year. Southern Lehigh has not accepted that. So you have no idea if they will agree to that. It's my understanding that so far they have not really wanted us to join their library because it's been so contentious and they may not want to work with us or have a representative on their board. So I don't think you should say, you know, we can pay the $75,000 and we'll have the access program back and everything, because we have no idea if that is going to happen. And meanwhile, I had 15 books on reserve in December and now I have nothing. So it's really affecting all our residents and hurting everyone in this township. And I also think the township has not been at all responsive to the residents' wishes. I know I have written several letters to township and Priscilla answered one of them, but nobody else ever answered me, my emails. And I think, you know, we're the people who vote for council and we deserve to have our voices heard, and you have not been doing that. Thank you.
I need to correct the record again. You had mentioned funding by the schools. We're Lower Saucon Township.
I did not mean by the schools.
Hold on,
I
ma'am,
meant
let
by
me
the
finish,
schools.
let me finish. You yield the floor, let me talk now, okay? Ma'am, the school has nothing to do with what we do here. We're the
I
township.
understand that.
So if you have that concern, you need to take that to a different body. We can't control what they do here.
I did not say that the schools funded the library. I understand that they don't.
Fair enough, thank you. All right, next we have Bruce Dawson.
Hi, I'm Bruce Dawson. I don't have prepared remarks, but listening to the debate, I would think if Southern Lehigh would accept the proposal that you outlined, that would, including the PA access sticker, that, you know, we would once again have the kind of library service that we had before the expiration of the agreement with Hal. You have stipulated that they kicked us out, but I think that's a misrepresentation. When the now was coming up for renewal, they asked for an increase in the per capita charge, which is, you know, based on the number of residents in our township, and that we didn't find that acceptable, and there was a period of debate. And by the proposal in May that you referred to, said that you were going to jointly work to get us removed from the Hellertown service area. And I believe that's when we would lose the PA access program. We need to have a resident library in order to, you know, participate in that program. So I think for Southern Lehigh to accept the proposal as you outlined it, they would have to go to the state and get us to become part of their service area. Is that the legal understanding as well?
Yeah, actually, that's not
More until
accurate.
May.
No, I think that there's a difference between providing service and being in a library service area.
Right.
The service area refers to state funding. If a municipality is in a library service area, then that library is entitled to receive state funding based on the population of that municipality. What I read earlier was the service provision that said any library can provide service to someone that's not in the municipality where the library resides under rules and regulations adopted by its board. No qualifications, no state approval. You want state aid, you gotta go to the state with the service area issue. Service is a separate issue.
But is the access program, which is a state mandate, dependent on being in a service area that the state is funding?
Yes.
No,
it's not. If a library receives state aid, it has to participate in the access program, not vice versa. So a library can give PA access cards to any.
I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me because.
The entire library code doesn't make any sense.
If it's just a decision up to Southern Lehigh, whether to grant us participation in the access program, why would they stipulate that this month by month, which I also agree is unacceptable without PA access?
I don't know why they made the proposal that they did. What we're discussing tonight is a counter proposal.
Right. Hellertown could put state access stickers on the cards that were sold.
They can do it right
now. That's true. It's not true. It's true.
It is.
Like,
Hold on.
couple
Hold
balls
on.
on, buddy, it's
Hold
not
on.
true.
Folks, we're not doing this tonight. You heard the rules at the beginning. We're not gonna have outbursts where people are yelling and being disruptive. I'm not giving you another warning. If it happens again, I'm gonna ask the police to escort you out. We're here to have a constructive meeting, and we've rearranged the order of this meeting so that everyone has an opportunity to speak. All right? Please conduct yourselves appropriately. If you need a reminder, step out into the hallway and pick up the ordinance and take a look at it again. This gentleman is trying to speak and offer his comments. We're not going to disrupt him. Okay? Excuse me?
So you keep interrupting him.
Please proceed, sir.
Thank you. Well, I think that's a point that, for clarification, because it's not my understanding that it's just the sole decision of the library offering service when we're not part of the service area. So if I'm incorrect, I hope somebody will, research that and ask why these, if we can get an access sticker on the cards, that, then, why are they withholding that from spite, or do they have a legal stipulation? I just find it very difficult to believe that that's the case, but if it is, please, publish the, cite the,
That's a question that the citizens can go ask any library that they want. We don't have a relationship with the Hellertown Area Library. We don't have a relationship with any library at this point, other than providing residents with funding where we subsidize individual and family memberships. So if that's a concern that you have to go ask whoever it is who has control over that, why they're not doing it. It's not for us to ask that question.
Okay, but if they say you're not permitted to under the laws of Pennsylvania, then how does that get reconciled?
Well, we feel highly confident in the research and the opinions that we're getting from our solicitor. He's a licensed lawyer.
Okay, and then,
This has been going on for 18 months. I've said that from the very beginning. Service area is different than being provided service by a library. If somebody can point me to a section of the library code where it says that for a library to give out a library card with a PA access sticker on it, the municipality has to be in its service area, then please show it to me.
Because this came out in a lawsuit down in Philadelphia, didn't it?
Yes.
I have
Yeah.
a Philadelphia, free library card that has a Pennsylvania state access. I don't know.
I do too.
Heathertown won't put them on.
All right, next is Maya Simon. Maya Simon.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Maya Simon, and I'm not the new kid on the block, I'm the new old lady on the block. I moved to Lower Saucon in September of 2022. And one of the things that my husband and I learned when we were shopping for a house was that by living in Lower Saucon, that we could use the Hellertown Area Library and the pool and the compost and blah, 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 which all now is no longer true. So we sort of feel like we've been hoodwinked because what the websites all said in ways that were easily accessible to the stranger at the time did not say, oh, no, this isn't gonna happen, we've already broken off and so on. It didn't say that. Now, I understand, and I could be wrong, I promise I'm wrong at least once a day, and this could be it for today, but what I understand is that the genesis of this problem with Hal was that Lower Saucon stopped paying the monthly fee.
Yeah. Is that a question, ma'am?
Yes.
The answer to that is no. The agreement expired and we were unable to agree on terms of a new agreement.
And my problem was never that paying, it was, we didn't get any board representation. There was no board representation, no say over how that money was gonna be.
And no data.
No data of usage data, they wouldn't provide any usage data. They claimed 3,100 people use the library every day or something like that, and we barely sold 200 memberships.
That's
If
wrong
you'll
too.
Indulge me, ma'am. I'd like to address your comments about the pool and the compost center, because you may not know the history of that.
No, I don't.
So,
I just know that it told me that that's what we were gonna
We did
get.
not kick ourselves out of the pool, we did not kick ourselves out of the compost center, okay? So I wanna be clear on that. We're not the ones who decided to change those arrangements. What is significant here with regard to the pool, if you're still interested in the pool, is that we do provide reimbursement to residents who go and purchase a non-resident rate pool membership. We do provide reimbursement for part of the difference to offset that. So you can still use the pool, you're not prevented from using the pool, and you're still using the pool at the same price, you just have to come here and get a reimbursement just like with your library card. With regard to the compost center, we have made arrangements for compost, and Mark has that information, he can talk about that. But we do provide compost arrangements for our residents just as before. The compost center is not open yet, and the composting arrangements that we have here are not operating yet. They did operate after the holidays for Christmas tree pickup, just as the compost center did. And we will continue to provide compost services to our residents, just as we've talked about in past meetings. Now, you may not have been participating in those meetings or aware of it, so I just want you to be aware of that.
So the question I then have is this new compost center, is it going to actually compost material and then make the compost available to residents?
Now, the item on the agenda tonight is the library. We're here for the library, so we're not here for the compost center. And I offer that information to you as a courtesy, maybe that was my mistake. But if we can take focus on the library, okay?
That's
And if you have
fine.
questions about the compost center and how it operates, I suggest you contact the township offices when they're open, and they can provide you with information on that.
That's fine, you brought it up and
No, you brought it up, I responded to it now.
I apologize. My concern is that I don't have a sense that the negotiations with Hal were done in good faith. I don't understand, you know, when I talk to people at the library, they tell me that the difference between what had been and what was being proposed was a relatively small number, and that there's been so much ill will that Hellertown felt that they had no choice but to take the action that they took because they weren't getting a fair deal in the negotiations. My concern is that, one of my concerns, I second the comments about it being the community library, and I also second the comments about it not being funded if we are now not part of it. And so Hellertown Library is not going to be the library it used to be. And I am of the opinion that Lower Saucon Township was the initiator of the break.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll move on to the next one, Lynn Hill. I called Bob McKellen, you said it 3 times.
Couldn't hear you.
Oh.
This morning, my wife and I both thought we weren't gonna be able to be on Bob McKellen. That we weren't gonna be able to be at this meeting, but she wrote an email out, and I know sometimes if it's not a great email, you don't read it into the meeting. Mark told her that he got it. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you, Cindy wrote this. I'm not able to attend the special council meeting tonight, April 4th. I hope you do me the same courtesy you did for the Billicks when you read their letter of support for the Southern Lehigh Public Library in January 19, 2022 council meeting. I will reiterate my opposition to changing Lower Saucon Township Home Library to any library other than the Hellertown Area Library. Your frivolous spending on lawyer fees, lawsuits, donations in the past 16 months have far exceeded the amount that Hal was expecting from LST. Not to mention the full lack of library services that Lower Saucon Township residents are experiencing now. Your lack of transparency by not keeping Lower Saucon Township residents informed of the ongoing negotiations with Southern Lehigh Public Library are insulting to me. We learned more by attending Southern Lehigh Public Library board meetings, and my wife and I have both gone to those and learned a lot. We were among the 7 and 21 that Link told us about. This is sad coming from officials we elected. I find it disturbing that you act surprised when Hal removed Lower Saucon Township from its service area. What do you expect after Mr. Treadwell sent letters to both Hal and OCL requesting that Lower Saucon Township's population be excluded from the OCL's 2023 calculation for funding? Also, we'll go back to Mr. Croce's campaign promise to be fiscally responsible. Is that what's really happening here?
Yes.
And to support the Hellertown, and Mr. Croce's support of the Hellertown Library.
When we had board representation, they don't wanna give us any board representation, even though.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Along those lines, I went to the last landfill meeting, and Mr. Croce came up to me afterwards and was asking me about all the differences between Bethlehem, Hellertown, and Southern Lehigh. And he told me about iPads that were available. None of them have iPads.
I said I wanted iPads available, you're lying,
And you
still
mentioned
lying.
parking, you can't get 3,100 cars at that, well, you can't, Bethlehem doesn't even have a parking lot. Health rates will go up. Southern Lehigh, if you've been to Southern Lehigh library meetings, their rates go up, and they're crying for more money right now. If you go to a meeting, you'd find that out. I know from
Actually, I've
experience.
been to the last 2. I've been there.
Excuse me?
I have been to the Southern Lehigh Library meetings.
I know from experience how these meetings go. You let us pour our hearts out for hours and then vote as if we didn't speak at all.
I mean,
I urge my fellow residents to remember the behavior of certain council officials and members when it comes time to vote in November. Be careful that we don't allow another Trojan horse to be wheeled into the township.
Could I, since you pointed to, read about some letter that I wrote where I asked that the township be removed from the service area, what letter is that?
Council asked you to do that in May of last year.
And
If you
so
look at
my
the
letter
minutes
is
of
the,
last year
my letter is the May 18th one, is that the letter you're talking about?
that you sent about,
That I sent to the Pellertown Area Library's attorney?
you sent letters to both them and OCO.
Okay, which letter are you talking about?
Both of them, I guess.
Well, the letter that I sent, can you open that, Stacy?
Where's the other one?
520, I never sent a letter to OCL asking for that.
This one?
Yes, that one. The letter that I sent in paragraph 2 says that Hal and the township will cooperate to remove the township from the Hal Direct Library Service area. Where is the letter where I asked Hal and OCL to remove us unilaterally?
It was in the minutes that you were asked to send the letter.
That's the letter that I
No,
sent.
Well, I know, but I'm saying in the township council minutes.
Okay, well, let's be clear then. If there's something in the township minutes, then it's not a letter that I sent.
Mr. McCallum, you completely misrepresented the conversation we had. It was ridiculous. What I said, I pointed out, and I have it with me right now, this is exactly what I pointed out. So here's some of the Hellertown programs for April of 2023. They have a teen and tween arts and crafts, they have an adult craft night, the Girl Scouts meet, they got a family story time. I said, other library programs are quite more expensive.
Electronic stuff.
So then we have, I'll get to the electronic stuff. That's all about. Southern Lehigh has music class sessions, flow yoga, gentle yoga, story time as well. They have kids flicks. They have a library literature discussion group. They have they're having a book sale. They have a Pokemon card club for some of the younger kids. The Emmaus Library has a caregiver support group for Alzheimer's, computer basics for senior citizens, computer apps, how to use apps, creative writing program for kids and adults, finding your ancestors, how to research that, teen writers.
Tom, hold on. Folks, I can't hear what he's saying. I hear a lot of muffling and groaning.
Some Bucks County libraries have how to not be a victim of computer fraud, how to not be an ID theft victim. They have a chess club. They have some coding programs for kids. So that's what I talked to you about. That's what I said. And so,
Sir, you yielded the floor. You sat down. You brought up comments, sir. Sir, you yielded the floor. Tom, hold on. Sir, you yielded the floor, you sat down, and you made comments, and he's responding to what you said. He's not trying to have an argument with you, he's responding to what you said. So allow him to speak as he allowed you to speak, okay? Go ahead, Tom.
As you can see, my problem is with the programs in the Hellertown Library. They're just not as good as other libraries, and not what our township deserves. Our township deserves better. And we never were offered representational award in any of the meetings.
All right.
I'm done.
Thank you. All right, next, Lynn Hill.
Mr. Carochi is talking about programs that a library can offer when it's fully
Are you
funded.
Lynn Hill? Okay, I have to identify you.
Of course I'm Lynn Hill. You called my name.
I called your name, you're standing, but I didn't call your name to come up. You just came up when Mr. McKellen was still talking and you've been standing there. And I need to identify who you are for the record. Are you Lynn Hill?
Yes, I'm Lynn Hill.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, Lynn. My 3 minutes should start now, and I don't want to be interrupted. Mr. Carochi is talking about programs that are offered by libraries who get the benefit of full funding. Libraries cost money. Hellertown's a relatively new library. They're just kind of getting started. A library has to run a budget surplus because one of the biggest expenses that they have, believe it or not, is books. We have to buy books for the library. Hellertown Library, I live in about the center of this township. Hellertown Library is like less than 2 miles from my house. Southern Lehigh Library is like 7 or 8 miles from my house. So I'm in the center. If somebody wants to go to Southern Lehigh Library for whatever these programs are, and they live at the northeast corner, they're probably gonna drive like 12 miles. It's probably gonna take them like 25 minutes. The kids can walk to school, to the Hellertown Library. We have a community between Hellertown and Lower Saucon Township. That's always how it's been. And the fact that you want to just tear apart this relationship, you know, we can repair it after you're not in office anymore, of course. In the meantime, you're just embarrassing everybody with your lack of negotiative skills, your threatening lawsuits, your profligate spending, and now you want to send $250,000 to Southern Lehigh Library just to enter into a 10-year agreement with us? I mean, that's the same amount of money. You're talking $100,000 a year. That's what we would have paid to Hal. So, you know, I don't understand your motives. And you should not enter into an agreement that lasts longer than your terms in office. I still have a minute left. Have you not seen all the red signs on people's lawns that say fully fund our Hellertown Library? It's more than 7 people, it's more than 21 people. And believe me, a lot of people that feel the way I do don't have the signs on there, but they still feel the same way. Everybody in this room agrees that we should cut the nonsense between the borough of Hellertown and Lower Saucon and go back to the relationship that we all had.
Again, I want to clarify an error, which is that when negotiations are taking place with Lower Saucon Township, Hellertown Borough, and Hellertown Area Library, which was going to be a tripartite, a 3-party agreement, Hellertown Borough and Hellertown Area Library entered into a bilateral agreement with the 2 of them and excluded Lower Saucon and removed Lower Saucon Township's board representation. Also, the last speaker said that we were going to be giving $100,000 a year to Southern Lehigh Public Library. Again, for the 4th time, it's $75,000 a year.
Do the math.
So the next person who's up is Robert Hill.
Robert Hill, retired St. Luke's physician of 35 years and township resident for as long. I'm bewildered by the chaos and vitriol, discord that now exists between Hellertown and Lower Saucon Township, which I think is unnecessary. And my question is, I saw the proposal that Southern Lehigh Library put out. It seems like they want to deal with this council at arm's length. And I can't blame them with all the chaos that's going on between Hellertown and Lower Saucon Township. Why would they want to touch this with a 10-foot pole? I think the offer that you guys propose seems a little bit draconian, maybe with penalties and whatnot involved. Why would they want to touch this with a 10-foot pole? What if they say no? Then we're on.
Well, I'll just respond to the penalty part of it. The penalty part of it is to maintain the integrity of the agreement for 10 years, which is consistent with the Office of Commonwealth Libraries requirements for providing library services. I think that was pretty clear. The Office of Commonwealth Libraries wants those arrangements for 10 years, and we are willing to abide by the Office of Commonwealth Libraries requirements. It would be actually contrary to what their requirements are for us to suggest anything different for 10 years.
Well, penalties don't sound very friendly, but what if they say no? Then where are we?
We'll see what happens if they say no. So we're here about making an offer. We're not here about what we're going to do and speculate about what they may do. All that we can do is make an offer, put the terms of the offer in, and hear from the public as to their thoughts on it.
Well, I think it's kind of disappointing.
Thank you. All right, next we have Donna Bowden.
Hello, my name is Donna Bowden. I live on Kelly Ridge Road. Kelly Ridge Road is on Fort Wassergas, past Southeastern Fire Station. Howell is about an 8-minute drive from my house. Southern Lehigh is about 25-minute drive from my house. That might not seem far, but as a mom of 3 kids, making a 45-50-minute trip on a regular basis is not a feasible option for me. I would just like to share a little information about my family. We moved to Lower Saucon in 2018, and one of the first places I visited was the library. I would take my daughter, who was 3 at the time, to story time. And that's where I met some of my first friends when we moved here. My son Connor is 10. He's a very talented student. He's an avid reader. He's currently on book 11 of the Wing of Fire series, all books which we have borrowed from the library. My daughter Samantha is 7, and she has a reading disability. She works with special ed in school, and she is tough as it is for her to read, as much of a challenge, she loves going to the library. We go to Hal, and she has so much fun picking up books, and she loves to read, even though it's hard for her. My daughter is 1.5, my youngest, and she loves books also. She has a different favorite book every week, and so it's so nice to go pick up new books and rotate me through new books for her. And my husband, he has a very demanding job, and he's also in graduate school. He unwinds by listening to audiobooks on his long commute. Prior to January, he was able to borrow ebooks through the Hellertown Library. And now that he no longer has that option, we are spending $50 to $60 a month on audiobooks for him to listen to while he's driving to and from work, which is not sustainable for us. This Thursday, all 3 of my children are attending the egg hunt that the library is putting on, which is one of their favorite egg hunts that we go to, more so than the one on Saturday, because they have so many activities and it lasts longer than 10 seconds. I've sat through numerous of these meetings. I've watched your faces during these meetings. I've sent you all emails. I know that there's nothing that I will say tonight that will change your minds. I know you all decided it long ago. I know there's nothing any of us will say that will change your minds. And in preparing for today, I was going to look up facts and figures, but I know that the facts don't matter either. I just know that I'm one of many people, not a few, that support a partnership with Hal. And I want my voice on record of being one of the taxpayers of Lower Saucon Township that does not support a partnership with Lower Saucon, Lower Southern Lehigh Public Library, and Hal cannot survive without our financial support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
According to the internet, Southern Lehigh Library is 19 minutes and 11 miles from my home. I live on the other side of Lower Saucon, not on the rich side. Township Library, it says is 9 minutes, though some people know that I can get there much faster than that, and 6 miles. Now, I listened to the Southern Lehigh School District board meeting, which was maybe 2 months ago, maybe it's even 3 months ago. But there was a representative from Upper Saucon Township that spoke at that meeting, who said that they are paying the library building, which they own, over $350,000 a year to support that, and he was stating how they cannot continue to do that. So you're allowing them to use our taxpayer money to support Upper Saucon Township, to support their building. That's what you're doing with our money. Now also, council members should be trying to support your constituents and your community. Yeah. Since you probably will do whatever it is that you want to do, because I know you've already made up your minds, A 10-year agreement with Southern Lehigh Library should not be entered into. It should be a shorter term, so that we can go back to Hal when we get new members on council. Thank you.
Which one is Ignatius? I can't read the last name that's written.
Lucas.
Okay.
Ignatius Lucas, 1488 Colesville Road. I have lived in this township for 35 years, and I always assumed that having a library was a key and critical part of why I wanted to live and pay the taxes that I pay. Both of my children graduated from Saucon Valley High School, and they were able to use all of the facilities we preferred because of access we had to be able to use the Township Public Library. And all of a sudden, I feel like a nomad. I go to a library, I try to check out a book, they say, sorry, you can't. I find that insulting and demeaning, and I am mad. I am mad because there has been no transparency. I know that there have to be issues that are never addressed. However, having a situation that we hope to fix is, to me, an untenable situation. I run a business. We plan and make the decisions before the problems arrive. Here, you make a decision, the problems came, and now you're trying to figure out how the dickens you're going to get out of them. It's backwards. And I really feel that from what I've seen of the lower Southern Lehigh Library, they really could care less one way or the other. Maybe it's because there's animosity, maybe because it's the way the relationship with Hal. But very honestly, what I hear now, your proposal is you hope that they will give us PA access. And if we do, then yes, I agree, people can go to Hal, they can go to any library. And incidentally, sir, I have a library card from the Town Library. It most certainly does not have an access PA sticker. I guarantee you that.
That's right.
Okay, I heard you say that you could get one there.
He said Philadelphia, sir. He said Philadelphia.
But please make clear, please make clear that Howard Town could put a state access sticker on his car.
All I'm saying is that I have not heard in the various meetings that have come, other than wishful thinking and significant amount of taxpayer money spent on legal fees, on donations with no repercussions. This is not a way to run a business, and it certainly is not a way to run a township. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Single, and I live out on Fairway Road, out by Wassergas. I think I might win the prize, because I've lived in this area for 68 years. In fact, I was part of the committee that started the Hellertown Library. And I'm beginning to wonder if the library issue as a whole, brought up by the council, and the demise of the relationship is just a red herring that was thrown out there for us to, our little bees, to become busy while the landfill issue was in the background. I mean, cause maybe paranoid, but it's starting to look that way. Mr. Kurogi, is that it? Kurogi? You're very vocal about the library things. I don't know if you're a library user or not.
I am.
Okay.
I believe in good libraries.
Good
Well, why didn't you donate the $20,000 that was allocated to furniture for the township to the library fund then?
I'm the one that came up with the plan to
You were
reimburse.
real quick to get that money in for that furniture.
Me?
Real quick. Mr. Bononis, our president, has made the statement at one of the meetings that his kids buy books. Lucky you. Those of us that are on the edge, payday to pay. Oh yeah, you said your kids will go to Amazon. Oh, it's in the minutes. You can go look.
I don't think it was me, ma'am.
Oh, you said it, yeah, you said it. So now we got a couple of, yes, Mr. Treadwell, who is one of the unelected officials that we should wonder about how long you get to stay, because we have to vote them out, but we don't have to vote you out, you're contracted.
I serve at the pleasure of the board, ma'am, and it was me that said my wife buys
Oh, okay.
sometimes on Amazon, it was not Mr.
I apologize, Mr. Extend you, in a very astute way, your children buy books, great.
I didn't say my children, ma'am, I said my wife sometimes buys books on
No, you
Amazon
didn't.
with her book club.
No, you didn't. We'll pull the notes and look. I've also heard, and I'm not gonna point a finger on this one, but I heard that the genesis of all this is because someone was denied a zoning permit to build something. We used to take our kids to Dr. Shafir, and I worked at the sewing mill factory.
I would caution you to be very careful about what you say. Right?
Okay, I'm just saying, what my experience, my life is.
Just use allegedly.
Yeah, I'm just cautioning you.
Okay, you can caution me, but that's.
You can say whatever you
I
want.
used to work at the sewing mill factory, and button blouses after school, to pay for nursing school. So, I don't get why you don't want the library in Hellertown. We worked for 50 years, from the time I was an adult, to merge Hellertown and Lower Saucon culturally, not demographically. We didn't have any problems. It was a wonderful relationship. High schools and everything. Yeah, my time's almost up. Hopefully, so is all of you.
I believe it's Millie, M-I-L-L-Y, Dignetti.
Hi.
Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
All right, great.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Millie Dignetti. I live 1672 Kevin Drive. I have not been able to come to a meeting yet because it seems like so many of the library meetings wouldn't have the time to talk in the beginning of the meeting. It seemed like it would always be kind of lost in between, and like this is the first meeting that's actually been about the library. And the biggest thing, I just don't understand, not one person from Lower Saucon has got up here and said, I want to be part of Southern Lehigh. None of us want to be part of Southern Lehigh. We all want to be part of Hal. I have a whole letter. I have a letter that I wrote, that I wrote to Southern Lehigh and to everyone here, but you don't hear anything back. And it's, Hal was our happy place as we kind of came out of COVID. I have a 7-year-old son. He's my only child. He's learning to read. But we're not like in school because we're not really in school, but we go to the library for those events. And somebody said something about Hal not having educational events. That's preposterous. They have learning on numbers, Lego, STEM. There's so much learning that goes on there with Miss Andrea. When we walk into the library, Miss Andrea knows my son's name. She says, hey Bear, what's up? She knows the books he likes. She knows how he's doing in reading. Like, these are important things that are actually about community. And he wants to go to the library that's right across the street from where he plays t-ball. That's community. It's not going to the other side to a different county, in a different school district. Because yes, once that we are supporting Hal again, I'll have my blue sticker back. And if we want to meet a friend for story time at Southern Lehigh, then we can. But I want my tax dollars and my community support to be going towards Hal, which is part of our school district. Remember, not one person from the community has said that they want to join Southern Lehigh. So why is it even a discussion? It shouldn't be.
Thank you. Next is Larry Wright. Larry Wright.
I'm Larry Wright, 1445 Manor Drive. A library has been one of the most important parts of my youth and into my what's now you could call old age. From the age that I first started reading, even on the outskirts of Denver, Colorado, I had access to library. I've had access to a library for my whole life, and it's really shocking and dismaying when I went at age 70 to the library and was turned down, even though I've lived here and enjoyed numerous libraries around for 25 years. And now it's at a time when it's perhaps more important than ever. I work 10-hour shifts at QVC. I listen to books on CD. I can get them from the library. They are prohibitively expensive for me. I rely on the library for my well-being, really. It's not an optional service. It's an essential service that, just as the police department, the fire department, everything else that is supported by the council. I'm appalled that this is happening to me now at a time when it's maybe more important than ever. And I listened to the proposals. The proposal for Southern Lehigh sounds like a really great wish list, but I don't see from their responses so far that I have a lot of skepticism that they're going to be willing to accept and give what we are requesting. This is a hugely important issue to me, and I really have the expectation and the hope that this council finds a way to give us full library service.
Thank you, sir. Sir, may I ask you one question? You expressed some skepticism. Have you had conversations with them, or do you have information that's not available to us?
No, only that so far our efforts to join them have been rebuffed.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we have Joellen Thompson. Joellen Thompson.
Good evening, I'm Joellen Thompson, 1819 Viola Lane. I often respect what you are trying to accomplish, but I totally object to the techniques that you use. I've been attending these meetings for the past year and a half and have been very disappointed in how information regarding library services has been withheld from the public. There were several meetings when library services were not even on the agenda. To get an item on the agenda, you changed the rules so that even if one council member wanted the issue discussed, it must be seconded. Otherwise, the item is not addressed. At the meetings when library service not being on the agenda was questioned, the explanation was frequently that there's nothing to report. This occurred despite meetings that were currently going on behind the scenes with Southern Lehigh Public Library, Southern Lehigh School District, and others. Since you value transparency, why did you not feel obligated to keep residents updated? And why must we go to other entities to find out what's going on in our very own township? Why the secrecy? Comments have been made about the number of membership cards to have. Just to provide accurate information, as of April 1st, 648 library cards have been issued, not the 200 that Tom quoted earlier. You have mentioned a monetary offer to Hal on May 20th for $50,000 plus an extra $32,000, and that Hal did not accept it. What you neglected to say is that on June 28th, the day the Hal board was meeting to discuss this offer, Attorney Treadwell rescinded that offer. No check was ever sent. And since I am talking about fiscal issues, how do you rationalize these three? One, the issuing of a $5,000 unsolicited donation to Southern Lehigh Library for services that they were already required to provide. Second, spending greater than $108,000 in legal fees regarding library issues. And third, saying that you support library services, yet withheld your funding for HAL for 11 months while they provided free service to Lower Saucon residents. Because of the numerous discrepancies between what you say and the facts that I have witnessed, it is extremely difficult to know what the truth really is. Based on all of the prior actions, how can any Lower Saucon resident or any other library or municipality believe what you say and not fear legal action? I'm a Republican, and I'm very sorry to admit that I voted for several of you. I implore all Republicans to be very careful in the upcoming primaries. Now I know how to make sure I ask candidates to clarify which library they support, and that it is okay for me to vote for only one, not 3 Republicans for council.
Thank you. Kachnarski. One more time, Mark Kachnarski, there it is.
I will be glad to correct it. Hi, I'm Mark Kachnarski, Cambridge Court, Lower Saucon Township. I'm a resident here since 1988. My daughter attended Saucon Valley High School. During that time, many times later in her elementary years and through her middle school years, she would walk with her friends over to the Hellertown Library. And so I want to reinforce the thought that was brought up earlier about community. That's what she felt. She was able to walk 2 or 3 blocks from school, after school, do projects, do whatever with her friends who were residents of Hellertown. I don't have a sign in my yard. The problem is I didn't know where to get one, or I would have run up. I think many of the questions I had at the start of this meeting were questioned and answered by the various attendees. I'm not going to take too much time here, but it just seems that this whole negotiation, how you're going to go about this, what you're proposing, the terms, the length of term, the 5 years, the penalties, things of that nature, it seems like that is less than suitable for what the public desires. I feel that there should be more meetings. If you're going to negotiate with Southern Lehigh, and come back with your negotiations. Don't negotiate, accept, and then tell us how it all turned out. I would rather be on the front end, not on the back end. I appreciate your time, I appreciate your efforts as a council. Again, maybe the people who do support transition to the Southern Lehigh Library are not here, because maybe they feel it's a done deal.
Thank you, sir.
Eileen Dolphin, 2525 Black River Road. I attended council meeting in early 2022. At that meeting, Lower Saucon council members claimed that they could not sign off on a deal with the Hellertown Library because library staff and officials were, according to council members, taking Lower Saucon Township residents for granted. And the library staff were not communicating with Lower Saucon Township. And the library would not explain how they came up with funding formula for Lower Saucon. Hogwash. Saucon source published emails and minutes that proved the library had made every effort to communicate with Lower Saucon. Hellertown Library did nothing wrong. The intransigent party in the negotiations was Lower Saucon Township. This whole charade was created by Lower Saucon Township council members. At that meeting, person after person, young and old, gave heartfelt testimony in support of Hellertown Library. At 9 p.m., we thought the meeting had ended, with township officials telling us they were going to keep the lines of communication open. The next day, we learned that Township Council had written a check to Southern Lehigh Library. A $50,000 gift was made to Southern Lehigh Library. So much for keeping the lines of communication open. This $50,000 gift to Southern Lehigh was a mismanagement of taxpayer money. Because through the PA Access program, we already were able to check out materials from Southern Lehigh. Lower Saucon residents got absolutely nothing for that $50,000. Library patrons explained to council members library access program gave us access to all libraries, but we must have a home library. Our township lawyer, Mr. Trimble, argued, no need for a home library. At that meeting, he said, anyone in Pennsylvania can use any library in Pennsylvania. Well, yes, anyone can use a library, whatever that means, but to check a book out and take that book home, you need a library card. On December 31st, just as library patrons predicted, when we no longer had a home library agreement with Hellertown, we were cut off from PA Access Program. Bethlehem Public Library immediately canceled our library cards. Despite Mr. Trimble's assurance that library access would continue, we were cut off. And in spite of that $50,000 gift to Southern Lehigh, this February 28th, they cut off our library service. They took our money and cut off our service. If you consider all the thousands of dollars in legal fees this charade has racked up, the money wasted on Southern Lehigh, and the wholly unwelcoming offer Southern Lehigh has made to us for future services, you have to conclude that the original Hellertown area library offer, which would have cost the township $107,000 a year, was a pretty good deal. I propose that tonight, Lower Saucon Township vote to fully fund the Hellertown area library. Through this whole fiasco, the Hellertown Library has been faithful to us library users, in spite of all the slings and arrows thrown at them by the Township Council. The Hellertown Library is the only library today that we can go and take
You
a
hit
loan
the
at.
3-minute mark, I need you to wrap it up, okay?
And if you won't fund the library tonight, if you won't vote to fund the library tonight, I propose that Lower Saucon stop any further negotiation over library services until after the 2023 election. Now, one more thing. Council members have proven themselves.
Ma'am, you're well over the 3 minutes, okay? I gave you some time to wrap it up, and it doesn't seem to me like you're wrapping up your thoughts. You're continuing on,
I will
and you're
wrap up
having a
my
campaign
thoughts.
speech or some political speech.
I will wrap up my thought.
Thank you.
Council members, it is your duty to act in the best interests of the citizens of Lower Saucon Township.
Thank you. Larry comment that stood out to me that I think needs to be corrected. And you suggested that this council did something in secret at a meeting. And the reality of it is, I announced when the crowd stood up and they were leaving, I announced that the meeting was not concluded and there were other items on the agenda to be discussed. People left at their own peril. They chose not to participate or stay for the meeting. So I want that to be perfectly clear for those who may not have been here. All right, next is Sue Look Crazy. Sue Look Crazy? Okay. Next is Mark Ozimic. Mark Ozimic.
Hello, Council. Hello, citizens of Lower Saucon. I'm Mark Ozimic, the guy at the other end of the road. You know, first off, some of you are going to be upset with me because I'm going to flip the coin. Actually, with some of what Banana said, I actually agree with. I didn't do the math. I didn't bring pencil and paper. I didn't write anything down. But if you actually save the township money, that's a good thing because you sure have been blowing a lot of it all over the place. As far as, and I've had this conversation with some people, and I don't get involved with the library much. But if I'm gonna give you money, and I don't care who it is, I want to say in some of where that money goes, or what happens. So if you didn't get that from Hellertown, I can see your gripe with them. Especially the amount of money that's been spent. Everybody has a right to be heard. Everybody has a right to the access card. And if Southern Lehigh doesn't provide for state access so that people can go whatever library they want to go to, they get kiboshed. You don't accept the deal.
I agree, I would not. I would not accept the deal.
I didn't ask you anything.
I'm not telling you. I'm telling you.
You are here to work for the people that voted you in. And I ain't gonna bring up the dump. But what everybody should really be pissed off about, first and foremost, is all the kids that got out of that school every day, Monday through Friday, and got screwed because they couldn't go to the library. The ones who needed it most in their educational growing. You know, like I said, some people will probably be upset with me here. If you don't support the Hellertown Library, but people gotta learn to live within their means. I'm a welder, I'm broke. I don't make much money. I learn to live within my means. My house ain't fixed up. The library doesn't get a little extra things. But you can't be taking money, and you shouldn't be taking money and just throwing it all over the place like, oh, well, we're gonna give you $50,000 and hope for the best. And you gotta know, some of these people said that their library services got cut off when that ran out. And that ain't fair. At all. So, in part, I agree with what you said.
Sir, I need to wrap it up, because you have 3
I
minutes.
am, right now.
Thank you.
So whatever you do, whoever you decide to support, you make sure you get a say in spending of the money, you make sure you get state access, and appropriately fund whatever library is in need of stuff.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Victoria O period C period. Victoria O period C period.
Thank you. It's Victoria Optoff Cordero. I just
Okay, what's on
received.
the list?
I'm sorry?
I'm just reading what the name that's on the list.
Yes, I know. I'm providing my name for what you've requested everybody to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to point out that Hellertown Area Library has been our community library. You've already heard from many people that they want their tax dollars to fund their community. Not just a library, but a community. I've been here and watched the debacle with the library since 2021. I watched Mr. Carochi in November 2021, so that was well before we lost any board members, which is now the reason why we're saying we don't like Hal. Back in November 2021, the reason was they didn't provide good library services. The end zone has shifted multiple times depending on whatever the wind blows as to what the reasons are we don't like Hal. But the bottom line is Hal is our community library. Nobody wants their tax dollars that they spend in Lower Saucon Township to go to Southern Lehigh Public Library. We spent $50,000 for nothing. That was, again, another goodwill gift. Then now we're proposing to just blow $250,000 as basically a bribe to say, we'll give you this right now because we know we're so contentious and we've caused all these trouble and you don't want to be with us, but we'll give you, we're going to try to find the right number because everybody has a price. So $250 of COVID relief money, which is supposed to be used by our township for COVID relief purposes, is now just going to be thrown at a library that our community doesn't get an opportunity to participate with. Those people that participate in Southern Lehigh Public Library go to Southern Lehigh School District. What about our children that want to participate in Hellertown area library activities? My understanding is when you get an access card, it gives you the opportunity to take out books and materials. But in the past, if we tried to participate in Southern Lehigh activities with an access card, we were not permitted to participate in those activities because that was not our home library. Speaking of home libraries, there was this huge discussion again about whether or not we needed an access sticker, or whether or not a library was permitted to put an access sticker on a card. I think now the allegation is this evening that, oh, by the way, Hellertown can put an access sticker on it. So while we're sitting here, we happen to go on the Pennsylvania State website. So this is PAOCL, that's the citation. It says, state-aided local libraries shall maintain statistical records. It says, state-aided local libraries may charge ineligible Pennsylvania or out-of-state residents a fee
Tammy,
for a
your
library
3 minutes have
card.
expired, so if you could wrap it up, please, thanks.
I am, I'm in the middle of reading what's on the state
I'm asking you to wrap
website,
up.
which Mr. Treadwell claims is not true.
Give her an extension.
A library selling such a card shall not sponsor that person for the statewide library card program. Citation on the state website. So that's all I have to say. I'm wrapping it up. My opinion is that we should stay with Hal. We should support our community. We should be Saucon Valley together. Thank you.
Ms. Cordero is 100% correct. A library that sells a card.
What's the
That's
word
not
sells?
this proposal. This proposal has no selling of cards. A library that sells
The
a
current argument is that Hal can put an access sticker on these library cards. That's Hal's decision voluntarily to not put them on.
To the Southern Lehigh Library.
No, I'm talking about the Hal argument. The Hal argument.
Okay, I was talking about the Southern Lehigh Library.
I was referring to Mr. Carochi's statement that everybody could just put a sticker on, and it was Hal's choice.
Well, if Hal chose to not sell cards, right? And if Hal and the township had been able to come to an agreement, then they would be able to give access PA cards. That's the whole point. Any library can do that.
Back around to the beginning.
So I just need to clarify 2 other points. The last speaker said that we were offering $250,000 right now. That's not accurate. Again, I said $250,000 upon the signing of a long-term agreement. And the other part of it was the use of the COVID money for programs. My hope is that the library would use that money to provide whatever infrastructure and other needs they have upon Lower Saucon Township entering into their library, as well as providing for digitization for whenever the bureaucracy shuts down the country again, so that people can have access to the library, and have access to the So, Link, to comment on the COVID money and what we can use it for, what are the limitations that we have for the COVID American Relief Fund money?
There are no limitations at the moment. Initially, there were limitations on what the township could use the money for. It then changed with the federal regulations, and there are no restrictions on the amount of money based on the amount of money that the township got to what you can use it for. However, originally, one of the things that the federal government was suggesting the township use it for was to help 501c3s, which is what a library is.
All right, next on the list is Bill Brune. It looks like he's left, and I don't think he's a Lower Saucon resident anyway. I think he's a candidate for school board in Hellertown. And next is David Willard.
David Willard, 1809 Meadow Ridge Court. I don't want to be redundant, and I feel like March Madness, I'm on the clock here, but I would caution this board in your deliberations and any decision you make regarding Southern Lehigh Public Library at this time. It's pretty obvious that they're reluctant to work with us. It's obvious from the letter that was received in February. I thought our solicitor's response was fairly accusatory, a little bit intimidating, and that's really not how you want to begin a partnership. So I feel like pretty much tonight's meeting is council versus the people. Any time when I was sitting up there and 55 people showed up, it was a big deal. Normally you sit here with a few people in the audience. So I guess what I'm suggesting is, why don't you offer that same deal to Hal and Southern Lehigh and see who accepts, okay? Because I don't know if it's worth dividing a community to prove that you're right.
When you were sitting up here in council, did people publish online your home address and encourage people to come to your home and protest 24/7 on Christmas Eve? And did they send you emails at 1 o'clock and 1:20 and 1:40 a.m. repeatedly and bombard you with information like that or threats like that?
No, I'd like to address that because I think all of that is wrong. You're all serving as elected officials. You're all giving your time to try and make the best decisions for the community. So That's as disappointing to me as what's taking place here, but it's equally disappointing.
Thank you. All right, next we have Jessica King.
Good evening, my name is Jessica King, 2456 Alpine Drive. You've seen my face here before in support of Hellertown Library. And part of the issue that we're running into is that you are not being good stewards of our tax dollars or the wishes of the constituents. We are here requesting that you reconsider who you are choosing to support. Could I have eye contact, please? We've all been sitting in the audience. It would feel respectful if you're watching the people that are speaking. If you join the Lehigh Carbon Library Cooperative, then that's how you would potentially get PA access. That is how Southern Lehigh Public Library is under the OCL. They are part of a cooperative. So as you're writing that agreement, I think that there's more to it than just saying we want to be a part of Southern Lehigh Public Library. I don't want to be a part of Southern Lehigh Public Library, but what you said earlier, there's more to it. So it sounds kind of elementary when you say, well, these are our demands, this is what we want, and we're gonna get those things, but we're not a part of Emmaus, Parkland, Sladyton, Lehigh, Jimbert, Palmerton, Southern Lehigh, or Whitehall under the Lehigh Carbon County Cooperative. So I just think that there is more to it than what you're saying. I think that this is a prideful, arrogant council, and that you're choosing to go before us and not follow the wishes of your constituents. There's 55 people here, sure. But from January to the end of February of last year, you had over 100 families represented in emails. Thanks to a right to know, we didn't count every single individual person because there were multiple people from each family that were reaching out to you in support of the library. But there were 100 families in that 6-week time frame that were saying, please don't give up on Hal. Please support Hal. In the past, there have been multiple reasons why you felt that a relationship with Hal wasn't appropriate, being better services. I said here to you before, we can't do more with less. What you offered was less. $83,000 isn't more. So if you want more, please consider offering something that is fair market value for the thing and the product that you're looking for. If you want better services or you want better programming, you don't take the rug out from underneath someone and then say, oh, but we want you to be able to build a Lego tower on that. No, that's not how it works. That just doesn't make sense. The library is within walking distance of our school, and it does make sense. You don't want to be a part of the whims of the board of the Hellertown Library, Mr. Bononis. That was the words that you said earlier tonight. But do you have all the information from Southern Lehigh Public Library that you requested from Hal that were the reasons why you weren't willing to sign that agreement? Do we have all the documentation from them that you sought from Hal? I don't know because you aren't providing that to the public.
It's my understanding, ma'am, that they regularly provide that information to their funding partners.
Does Hal not do that?
No, they didn't.
I do believe they did because it got published pretty quick. And it's awfully convenient that your secretary, that your township manager disappeared in the midst of all of this. Very conveniently got relocated so she could never speak to the information that she shared when she was the one that was doing the negotiation meetings.
Your time's up.
Oh,
I think that concludes those that asked to speak on the agenda
I'd
items.
like to speak, I was here late, I didn't get on the paper.
Okay, you come forward.
Yes.
Sir, are you a resident of Lower Saucon Township?
Yes. Bill Swan.
Yes.
2317 Silver Creek Road.
Okay.
And pastor at Christ Lutheran Church in Hellertown for 27 years. And one of the things I learned from business world is relationships, partnership. And we can point to the police departments of Hellertown and Lower Saucon, do a great job, great partnership. And so I think this has morphed into a bigger issue than just the library. Jason and Jen Zabacki, who was a member of my church, who was on the board here and also assigned to the library, got a hold of me and said, can you bring all these groups together? The mayor, the board president.
And you did, and I appreciate that, thank you.
And it was a good meeting, wasn't it?
It was.
We left hopeful, in the midst of this turmoil, we left hopeful. And I want to say, please don't go ahead with this. Can you give me another shot? Can we try again? Can we try again? To restore a relationship. I came here 27 years ago when there was fraction. And we made so much progress. And I just think it's bigger than just the library at this point, and I'd ask you to consider that and what your actions are.
Thank you. I believe we have one more person who arrived late.
I didn't realize we were starting at 6.
It was advertised that way, Matt.
Okay, well, I'm so tired because I'm up late at night emailing you. So I have a couple comments here. Things got changed around based on what was said, but I was not happy reading about the letter to Attorney Leeson saying that only the 7 people that spoke there and only the 21 people that sent emails, blah, 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 they don't matter. They're not speaking for the residents. And have you forgotten about the hundreds of people that have been here in the past 18 months, especially last December and January? Every single one of them said they wanted to keep Hal as their library. Do you think they all changed their minds since then? I haven't heard anybody that said they have. And the numbers, I did get the numbers yesterday. It was 75 individuals, 192 households for 670 library cards. So to me, that's 670 people that are expressing their opinions. And no, they're not all here, and they would never fit in the building, and nobody wants to come here because it isn't fun. But those are residents that you're ignoring. I kept hearing over and over how we didn't have board representation at HAL, and that is false. They only discontinued having our board member after we stopped funding them, and we no longer had an agreement. So that was after January when they removed the board member. But that's because we had no agreement and we were not funding them. I think Southern Lehigh has said numerous times that they have wait lists for their programs that they have. They can't even accommodate the people that they already have in their territory. So how are they going to be providing all these great services that you mentioned to our residents? They're not, they can't. And also, in that letter earlier too, Lisa, it indicated that because of our opinions, we would be putting Southern Lehigh in some sort of financial peril. That was our intent or something. It doesn't even make any sense. First of all, it's not our responsibility to support Southern Lehigh's library. That's not our community library. Our responsibility is to our library, which is HAL, and I'm totally against going with this 10-year agreement along with everybody else.
That concludes the public comment on the agenda items. So as I said earlier, you've already gone once, Mr. Weber, sorry. So what we'll do is we'll bring it back to council, and I guess we'll start at Mark again. Any questions, comments, additions based upon what you heard from the public?
I wasn't really here in the beginning of all this, when all this transpired, so I'm not totally versed on what's true and what's not true. So all I can really go by are the facts that I honestly hear from Lake, and I truly believe what he says. I do. I believe what Lake says. And until somebody proves him wrong, I will believe what he says. So that's kind of where I'm going.
All right. Sandy? Sandy, go ahead.
I don't know, can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay, all right. As if the agreement goes through with Southern Lehigh, and it allows these people to have access to the Hilltown Library, I'm sorry, I don't completely understand all the objections.
Oh,
yeah. Funding.
All right, Priscilla.
Yes, well, first of all, I do not support what you're talking about tonight.
I'm outraged over the legal fees that have been spent. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
That have been spent to date, and it's just overwhelms me. This is for the library is for the adults and children, but to me, I hold the children special because this is what their future they need to have. And it's close to the school. I know that I don't have children, but I know I have friends that have children, and they use the library as a meeting place, a place to gather after school and build friendships and have playtime. And I think it's a community hub for the adults with all the different events that they hold. So I'm appreciative of what Hal has done for us over the years. It's hard to respond to a lot of the residents' emails, and I apologize if I didn't respond to you because I didn't know what to say. I just didn't know how to answer them. Some I did at the time, but over the past 18 months, I really didn't know because I'm not part of this other group of people trying to focus on going with Southern Lehigh. I attended a couple of their board meetings. I watched the YouTube for the school, for Saucon, Southern Lehigh School Board meetings. I just think it's terrible that people that live over in the Wassagas area have to travel 7 miles or, depending on, getting to Wassagas, I love the area out there, but, it's windy roads and, snow, ice, whatever, and you've got to remember, the parents have to come back, and then maybe they have to go back and pick their kid back again. That's 4 trips. I just think it's just awful. I have that in here. I think it's, well, I have written down here, it's insulting and demeaning. That was heard loud and clear by me. I think that this meeting, in my opinion, should have been held before Link wrote the letter of March 20th to get council's input on some of the wording that he used, not after the fact. And it wasn't, so I'm not very happy about that. Someone spoke about the library being fire and police. I never thought I'd live in a community where you didn't have a library, and we're in the fiasco that we're in right now. I just never, ever. A lot of you have been past board members with the Bethlehem Library. I remember your names because I've been here so long. And I just never thought that we'd be sitting here talking about this, but we are. So I think that we should be talking about Hellertown. And Pastor Spoon, I never know how to say your name, Spoon. I really appreciate that you tried to have that meeting, and I would be in support of having another one with you leading it. So I really think that we should try to do that, if this board is willing to do that. I support staying with Hal. I think we should settle the lawsuits and negotiate with them, and that's my opinion.
Priscilla's and others, people's concerns about the distance, I don't think that's a valid argument, because what we're saying is, if we go with Southern Lehigh and they provide the state access stickers, you'll be able to use whatever library you want to, whether it's Bethlehem or Hellertown or Southern Lehigh or any library that's under the state system. So the distance argument doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. As far as Priscilla said, we don't have a library. We do have a library. At Hellertown, we reimburse people for library cards to the Hellertown area library right now. That's been going on since the beginning of the year, basically. And it's starting to be well used, which I'm glad, because I am for strong libraries. That's the whole thing I'm in. I am for good libraries, but we need board representation, especially when we're the largest funding member of that library. And to have no board representation when we're the largest funding member doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I would never vote for an agreement where we didn't have a board representation. I would vote for an agreement where we wouldn't have a state access sticker. I wouldn't vote for an agreement where we don't have board representation. And we were offered none at that time. And we didn't even know that it was a 5-year agreement. And as Jason said, we didn't even know what the costs were going to be year 2 through 5. It was going to be way over $500,000, probably closer to $750,000 over the 5-year period for no board representation to try and include this one. And the library library has some transparency problems. They didn't provide us with actual usage numbers. They still haven't. They said that, I guess throughout its history, about 3,100 people had library cards, or families had library cards. And they also have a problem with Pennsylvania open records law. You have that phone drive I gave you? Can you pull up Mr. Altieri's open records complaint? I'm going to read this to you. So, Jonathan Altieri, I have no idea who that is, made a open records, a right to know request to the Hellertown Library. The Pennsylvania Open Records, the Hellertown Library refused to turn over the communications, the emails. Then they appealed to the Pennsylvania Office of Open Records. The request was simple. Please provide all emails. Is this coming up? I'll read it to you, and then you can pull it up.
Which one, Altieri?
Altieri. Please provide all emails sent by and to the library director regarding Friends of the Library members being allowed to order personal books using a library discount within the last 5 years. Also include any emails to book vendors explaining that you are allowing private citizens to obtain these library discounts for their personal books. And are you allowing staff to use these library discounts from vendors? So Hellertown wouldn't respond to the right to know request. It was appealed to the Pennsylvania Office of Open Records. And if you go to the last page, it says, for the foregoing reasons, the appeal is granted, meaning they should turn these over. And the library is required to provide all responsive records within 30 days. This is the Hellertown Library. Okay? They apparently have appealed this to the Commonwealth Court of Common Pleas. Spending attorney's fees.
I don't know, Tom, I don't know that they've appealed that one. What was the date on that one?
Because they're not a local agency.
Right.
They-
Well, this was March 2nd. The final determination was March 2nd.
So then they would have had till April 2nd to turn it over.
To turn it over. So I don't know if they did or not.
We don't know whether they did or not. What we know is that there's another open records office that they appealed to the Court of Common Pleas.
Okay, is that Mr. Stilton's
No,
or
that's
this?
Longmaker.
Longmaker. Okay.
Only your
So Mr. Stilton, there was another one. All this guy wanted was emails between the library director and the library board president for a 10-day period, January 6, 2023 to January 16, 2023. Again, Hellertown was told to turn it over by the Pennsylvania Office of Open Records, and to my knowledge, they haven't yet. But what's being hidden here? Why the lack of transparency? What's going on here with discounts to Friends of the Library?
Same discount as Southern Lehigh was getting.
And this is, people want us to have a relationship with the Hellertown Library, but they're not transparent about anything. And who knows what's going on here with this library discount being given to everybody under the sun, apparently. It's probably a library so, and then why won't they, if it's so innocent, why won't they simply turn it?
They're not a local agency.
Why would they appeal it to the Court of Common Pleas? So that's my question. So, again, I think our best plan of action right now would be make this offer to Southern Lehigh Public Library and their partners. It's very important, and their partners. And let's see what happens.
Thanks, Tom. So the one thing that resonated with me was one of the residents stood up and she talked about the library having a personality. And I agree with that. I think libraries do have a personality. What's concerning to me is having a personality that lacks transparency for the reasons that we talked about. So, when all of this started, at the beginning of this, we have requested certain pieces of information such as usage data, something as simple as usage data to justify a demand that was being placed upon us to give Lower Saucon Township resident tax dollars to an organization. Ma'am, no. The opportunity for public comment's already done. You can continue to just sit there and keep knitting. Whatever you're doing. Okay. So that information wasn't provided to us. And that's the beginning, and here we are at the end, and the Office of Open Record opinions show, again, a lack of transparency. And these are not opinions that were issued without some thought. These are very solid legal opinions that cite to legal authority. Some of them are 15 pages long, and yet they still haven't turned over that information. So that is a concern to me, and that's why I think we need to move forward with a different library that's going to be more transparent and better serve our residents. There's another resident who made a comment about the number of people that signed up for library cards. I think they said the total, based upon individual and family memberships, were 670. That's great. I'm happy that the Hellertown Library is deriving some revenue from that, and people are getting reimbursed by the township for that. But that number represents about 5% of the entire population of Lower Saucon Township. And we're stewards of the township tax dollars. And you know, there's another 95% of people that may or may not support the library, but they certainly have not gone out to get library cards. And I'm wondering how many of those 670 people are actually using those library cards, and how many of those people actually got library cards because there was some sort of campaign to generate interest in the library, just like there was a campaign to put signs up and other things. So again, I think the fiscally and the financially responsible decision here is to move forward with a future that's a sustainable library, that's affordable, that's representative of the township, and wants us on its board, and will provide library services in the future. So with that said, unless there's other comments from the members of council, I'm going to make a motion along the lines of what I had talked about earlier, in fact, exactly the same as what I had talked about earlier, which is to make an offer in writing, directing the solicitor to immediately extend that offer to the Southern Lehigh Public Library for a period of 10 years with a $250,000 payment from the American Relief Fund money to be paid upon execution of that agreement by both parties, hopefully this year, with the agreement beginning on January 1st, 2024, with an annual payment by Lower Saucon Township to the Southern Lehigh Public Library and its partners in the amount of $75,000 per year for 10 years, consistent with the Office of Commonwealth Libraries directives for having 10-year arrangements for municipally funded libraries, municipally supported libraries, with a penalty of 5 years of annual payments if the agreement is terminated early, to also include board representation on Southern Lehigh Public Library Board, proportionate to our funding levels, and
State access sticker.
also the Pennsylvania State Access sticker, the Access Pennsylvania sticker available to Lower Saucon residents. And I would direct that offer, that a response to that offer be provided to us no later than May 4th, 2023, and that the offer be communicated to them as a best and final offer on behalf of Lower Saucon Township. Is there anything else anybody wants to add to that motion?
I'd like a penalty for them if they ask us to leave or something changes on their side.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree to also include a penalty, so I'll amend my motion to include a penalty that runs both ways. Steve, you want to add anything to that? Priscilla, you want to add anything to that?
No.
Tom?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that I missed, Blake?
No, I think I took notes from what you talked about earlier and that motion at all.
Yeah, and there's one other thing that I'd like. I want a response from them and hopefully an acceptance from them by May 4th. If they accept, I would like Lower Saucon Township residents to have full access to the Southern Lehigh Public Library, including the Access Pennsylvania sticker, effective June 1, 2023. The agreement can be finalized by the solicitor and any attorney or solicitor on behalf of Southern Lehigh Public Library and any solicitors or representatives of any other funding municipalities. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay. So that's my motion.
I second.
Mr. Kirk, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Absolutely not.
Mr.
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benitez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
All right, thank you. All right, folks, we're not gonna have any hecklers vetoes at this point, okay? It's been decided and the letter's going out.
It's
Okay?
not even before we started.
So, I assume that the folks, so, all right, we're gonna move forward now. The next item on the agenda is, public comment, non-agenda items. We have 2 names on here. First is Mark Rosimic. Mr. Rosimic? Mr. Rosimic, do you have comments on non-agenda items?
Marco is Reddington Road.
That's her. Sir, go ahead.
Heard a lot of good things tonight. Very informative, all the way around. Last Saturday, I was out with a few girls from the neighborhood, women, and we were out picking up trash in the rain along Easton Road. So people that live out there appreciate it, that there was like 24 or 25 bags in less than a mile. And the point I'm getting at is when I came back off Easton Road and I came back Ringhofer Road, which I don't travel on much, I travel down Apple Butter Road a lot, but when I came back Ringhofer Road and it had the camera in the windshield going, I actually had to pull over for like 5 or 10 minutes and stop and look at the landfill and take notice of how actually big it is when you sit and look at it face forward from left to right. It's huge. It don't need no expansion. I got pictures from Ringhofer Road with the little Scooby Diggy thing on top of the hill. And then went after church yesterday, or no, Sunday, when me and the wife went out shopping, I got pictures from Texas Roadhouse over at the Lowe's parking lot. But the same Scooby Diggy thing on top of the hill from the other side of the landfill. So, if you people want to pay attention to your township, you really need to get out and do so. Because we don't need a landfill expansion. Money might be nice, and now I have no idea what they intend on giving, but it could never be enough. For every tree you take down, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. Change your mind on the landfill.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Victoria on South Cordero. The first thing I wanted to address was the PA system. So I'm thankful that we do have what appear to be operating microphones for today, and I hope that they continue that way. So thanks for that. I think that the price was double or triple what it was a year ago to get these, but I'm happy for them nonetheless. The other thing I wanted to ask regarding the PA system is when this council will consider having some virtual option for our residents to participate in. Back when we were dealing with COVID, the council operated rather smoothly with a Zoom participation, and everything worked out just fine. Since COVID ended, many municipalities and other governing bodies have adopted various forms of participation virtually. Sometimes it's as little as a Zoom stream, other times it's with active participation by virtual members and comment period by virtual attendees. And I have no idea why we sit here in 2023 with residents asking for a virtual option to participate or view this meeting since 2020, that we still don't have that. And I hope that the money that was invested for this new PA system included at some kind of highly technical virtual option that this council has said they didn't have technical skill to actually administer themselves in the old way. So I hope that this new version, and I'm hopeful that you can provide some timeline as to when we could actually have some virtual participation. So that's the first thing on my non-agenda item list. My second non-agenda item list is the ongoing issues that we have with the landfill. We have conditional use hearings that are going all throughout this month. They started in February. It does not appear that they will be done anytime soon. I have no idea why this council feels that it's appropriate to continue participating and drawing out landfill issues when there is an appeal in place on both the procedural and the substantive means by which the underlying zoning was passed. So I do ask council tonight to, number one, immediately place on your next agenda a virtual participation agenda item with details that not only allow participants to watch the meeting, but also to participate and comment. That would be number one. And number two, I strongly suggest that council in the future, from today's date, stop what they are doing with the landfill and stop with, I would like to know what the attorney's fees will be on the brief that the township is doing, the procedural appeal, but either way, I think they should just fold and agree that they screwed up on their zoning and get done with that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll direct your attention to the back of the room. There's a new camera that's installed and another one up here. And at the last council meeting, the township manager provided an update on the virtual meetings. Part of the audio upgrade is part of this improvement, so I think we'll have more information at the next meeting. So that concludes our non-agenda, I'm sorry?
Can I please speak?
On a non-agenda item?
Yes, sir.
Sure, you weren't on the list, that's why I thought we were done. You just identify yourself again for the record.
Yep. My name is Jessica King, 2456 Alpine Drive. In 2021, I spent months and months working with landscape architects as well as engineers in order to create a livable landscape in order to apply for the Northampton County Open Space Initiative. I have an example of that right here. The thing that I was trying to accomplish was an outdoor education space. And it sounds to me like our township has $250,000 that I could benefit from. And so the Northampton County grant is basically you have to have in-kind money in order to be able to use for grants. So I would need in-kind money in order to apply for grants, in order to create a wonderful outdoor education space that is both ADA compliant, good lighting, improves the waterway in the area. I've been working with the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture as well as Penn State Master Gardeners, the watershed for the Saucon watershed, the Lehigh Valley Greenways, and I attended all kinds of great workshops to do this. And so since we have this money that could potentially work on it, I think the only hiccup you're going to find is where I was planning on putting it.
I can't see what you're holding up.
It's a picture of the Hellertown Area Library. And I had designed this outdoor education space and location so that all community members from all directions could learn about good stewardship of the land, pollinators, and it would be used for everyone in the community, not just library members.
Have you gone to the Hellertown Borough with your proposal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I have
Actually,
helped.
I have a comment on that, real quick. Have you talked to the school district about their courtyard?
I don't want to work in their courtyard.
No? Because that's going downhill.
That's
from
for
what I
them to work
remember.
on.
That's what?
That's for them to work on.
Okay. Just figured it was a nice opportunity for you to
It
incorporate this school.
absolutely is, but they could be working with Babbitt's and the students that are in the programs, but Babbitt's dropped their horticulture program.
Okay.
And the closest horticulture program for students is Upper Bucks, VOTEC. And so I try to connect them. So I have tried that direction, because first and foremost for me is always education and working with the students. But these are things that you folks don't know about because you haven't had the opportunity to come to our meetings to discuss them with us. Jen Zavacki knew about them.
Great, thank you.
I'd like to make a comment. One more thing I'd like to say.
And this is on a non-agenda item, ma'am?
Yes.
If you would identify yourself.
Eileen Dalton, 2525 Black River Road. I would like to support her project to use the $250,000 of our COVID money for that project, because as you pointed out, only 5% of Lower Saucon residents use library services. So that would be a better program, because more Lower Saucon Township residents would be able to use it.
So am I understanding you're advocating to not fund library services?
I'm advocating not to use $250,000 to be given to Southern Lehigh. I'd rather go for the project.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think that concludes our non-agenda items. We're now going to break for an executive session. We will reconvene. Folks want to hang out for us to come back for an executive session? You may.
It's never
Thank you.
But
I wonder if like a settlement, because they're like, so there were motions filed by the OCL and Howard County, against Lower Saucon lawsuit, and I wonder if this is voted on by Southern Lehigh and vote to agree with this, whether it's gonna become a settlement offer for the lawsuit, and that would be because they're part of that's the only way they can possibly do it. Yes. Whatever they can. Well, not, there are parts of the executive session that are confidential, but they have to be motion to Okay. I think there's I guess we're here. Just, yes. So funny thing is there was that is canceling the 11th. Yes. Tomorrow is going to be the hydrologist here, followed by architect. So it's going to be but those stay 2 pieces. And then the other 2 witnesses she wants to do on the 20th, or the 19th and 20th. So none of our testimony will happen. Well, it would still give us the opportunity to make our own in time for our testimony.
I don't know. I think you need 5 people. So we're talking.
How many years back does it go? How many years back? It's like, so it's 5 years. I got an invoice for Charles and something from Gary about Charles projected spending. So I was too surprised with all the personal things. I was going to add that to my anxiety for the day. I mean, I have to have a meeting with, so, right, but he's also but I need to find out from him what he wants. I know that he likes to, for right now, you're gonna have to build this cost. If it doesn't pay off, or you can get
Thursday,
yeah, so Thursday, I take LJ down to get his scope. So I have to leave the house at 9 and, you know, that night, Thursday night, I could definitely have to, like, Thursday night, can you come over? I can't. Thursday night?
They're coming back.
I'll call to order the April 4, 2023 Lower Saucon Township Special Meeting. Council just met in executive session. The purpose of the executive session was potential land acquisition and litigation. With that said.
It was the compost center litigation and the federal court library litigation.
Thank you. With that said, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Ms. Beville, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Canonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Just a bit.
Have a good evening. Holidays.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks for your work there, Josh. All right. I did.
All right, I'll go check it out. Yes. Was I involved with the, no, she wasn't the pricing grant. I mean, Chrysler, that's what I was thinking, but it's the same guy as Chrysler. Same as Chrysler.
Yeah, that was sad.
Got that one.
Just say it's
All right, Sandy, I'll be in touch. I'll be in touch, okay? I'll give you a call tomorrow, or next month. Thanks. Okay, all right. All right.
Yeah.
Hey. I mean, that's
We've been right under, so you don't have to.
That's without saying.
That's either yes or no. If you get a yes on that, that's maybe an access to with the reimbursement, if they agree and you agree, the $50, you know, you're saying we do that. Yeah, well, the reimbursement, if you want something now. That's for a year, so this is right, and then ask people. But then let's just go to the back, so what's the new deal about this, there's no more. The really good one, that would be, let me make sure I'm clear about that. And the penalty angle here, if you or somebody back out. Either you or them. And is that 5 years? That's a 5-year penalty. So who's getting, is that 75 Gs? So that stays within that 10 years. If you have 6 years, they say, get out of here. You owe us 75 Gs for 5 years.
Mark.
And vice versa.
And this is still y'all's regulations because they want 10-year deals. And the last few
There's like 50 subscribers, and so far I'm at like 175,000.
So if you did that didn't happen, did you have a 10-year deal or?
Thanks for your comments.
5 years deal. So the 5 years expired, and. I'm sure it's in my backstory, I just saw it. So you're just going to kick that risk in.